Okay, welcome everybody. I'm going to call the meeting to order. And the first thing we want to do is to go into executive session pursuant to CRS 246402-4F to discuss personnel matters to include the biannual review, evaluation, discussion regarding the performance of the fire chief. I need a motion to that effect, please.
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, down the hall, chief. And is Andrew gonna be there? Next. executive session. So that will take us into our regular agenda. Emily, is there anything more I need to do there other than state we're back in regular session?
You're all good.
Those that might not know, Emily is our attorney and she tries to keep me and the rest of us out of jail. Thank you. Okay, Chief, number 2, consider a motion to adapt Resolution R-177 authorizing an increase in the contribution to Loveland and Rural Consolidated Volunteer Firefighter Pension Fund.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I think we have a spokesperson for him. Through Chris Class is here. If I can turn the floor over to him.
You know what? We haven't approved the minutes or anything. The consent agenda.
Oh, thank you, Jackie.
Don't we have
Right.
that?
Yeah, we should back up. I'm gonna beg everybody's forgiveness here.
So much for that jail comment, sir.
Yeah,
Let-
yeah, that's right.
let my start.
Oh, no. I got room.
I'm gonna back up. Let's do this. Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance and we'll start this off right. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now we're
Christie,
back
we
up.
already looked around the room. All of the board members are present, so if you could note that.
Yes, sir.
Chief, any amendments to the agenda?
No, sir.
Awards and presentations.
I do have that. If I could do
Yes.
that with the chief's report, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, I'm toggling PowerPoints.
We're good with that.
Okay.
Okay, that will take us to public comment. And we limit it to 3 minutes per speaker if somebody or anybody is inclined to speak. Anybody online wanting to, Christie?
If anybody online wants to use the raise your hand feature to speak, please do so now.
I do not
Okay.
have anybody.
Thank you. All right, that will take us to our consent agenda. And any comments on that, or would any board member like to make a motion to accept?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, got my get out of jail free card now. Let's go to the regular agenda, Chief, back to number 2.
Okay, if we can have
I was in timeout for a little bit.
All right.
And with the sheriff, so you're out of the ship. Okay, well, with the pension board.
Recording
In
in
March,
progress.
I gave you an update of the status of the pension and said that we were going to be having an actuary study this year. We received those results towards the end of August. When we got those results, there were a couple errors or concerns within those results. They didn't include the state matching funds for the years going forward to reduce the assumption for the investment return from 7% to 6%. So Andrea got with them and worked with them to try to clarify that. On the morning of our pension board meeting, we received a new report. And that report did include the state funding, but we still have a couple of questions that weren't answered yet. And what those questions evolve around is that our fund is a closed fund. There's no new active members that are going to be joining it. So they will be transitioning our investment pool fund from the long-term, according to them, to a short-term fund. So with that, we still have a couple questions as to how they do that and what the process is, because in the actuary report, they refer to a 10-year matrix, which we haven't seen or we don't know what that's about. But that morning when we received the new report at the meeting, Andrea pointed out that the new calculated contribution from the authority was going to be $1,590 more than what it has been in the past. our previous or our existing contribution is $101,700. The pension board made motion and passed, asking for the authority board to increase that contribution, the $1,590 per year. And that passed, and so we have a resolution, and that's why we have this resolution asking for those funds. After the meeting, a couple days later, I went through the actuary study again, looking to see, comparing the old one, the one we had received and the new one, to see if there were any other differences. The one thing that I picked up was that the numbers for the increase in contribution is actually for 2026 and 27. The resolution that was drafted requests the money to be in effect in October of 2025. So I just wanted to make sure that you knew, if you were bored and you read that actuary study, that we aren't trying to pull something by asking for the money a year early. I met with the chief earlier this week to say, well, what should we do about that? And I think there are a couple options. Certainly one option was just to pull this from your agenda and deal with it next year. But the thing that I thought about afterwards, our meeting is we probably do need that number included in the 2026 budget. I don't know if you have to have a resolution to do that or not, but so that's kind of where we stand is that that we still will be asking for that $1,590 to be in the 2026 and 27 budget. But I don't know if that needs to be, or the best way to approach that. If having this resolution go away and we come back at a later date with that request again.
We have our attorney here.
I don't think you need a specific resolution for it. I think you just include the higher amount in your budget, and then approval of the budget constitutes approval of the increased amount.
And did you say they went from a 7% assumption to a 6% assumption?
They did.
That's a good thing. Because they've been faulted in the past of being too aggressive there and investments haven't come in as planned.
And I would agree that it's probably a wise thing to do, prudent, but I believe that it would have been beneficial to the board and to you that we had some prior notice of the change. It does say in the actuary, or excuse me, in their annual report, they talk about having 3 funds. The long term, which is at 7%, they have what they call the glide fund, which is 6.5%. And that's supposed to be the fund that's a transition between long term and short term. The short term is at 4.5%. So where they came up with the 6% number, I'm not sure. That's one of the questions, because it does state in the study that the FPPA board has the discretion and the authority to determine what the assumptions are that are used in the study. So it's certainly within their prerogative, but that's just kind of the questions of when is this going to come into effect? Why is it going to come into effect? And as you know, I think Emily probably talked about earlier in the year, the agreement between the local plans and FPPA board, their agreement form, there were some questions about that. I mean, I agree with having, because of it being a closed fund and a shorter term, that having a lower investment return is probably correct. But once again, I'd kind of like to know when they refer to the matrix and the parameters, I think it'd be nice if we knew what those were.
Great. I'm going to open up to board conversation, if any.
Emily, does that mean we do not need to approve this resolution when you're saying if we just include it in the budget? So
you have the resolution and you can approve it. It's not necessary. Another way to do it would be in the budget. So it just depends on which way the board wants to go.
If you wanted to make that motion, I think you could probably get it done today.
Okay. Cut River Power is another board that I'm on, and they have a similar situation where there's like a closed fund. And so they're also having this, you might want to reach out to Dave Smalley of Cut River Power and ask how they're looking at it. They're a little further down the road than you. There might be some good experience then.
I will certainly do that. Because you're gonna, yeah, having other opinions and other options. You know, and one thing, we've been with FPPA for probably 10 years of been doing the administration. Everything has gone well, but you know, it's kind of like they manage 172 plans. The only disappointing thing that I've run into is this recent experience of their study not including all the information. And then when you ask them a question, they don't get back to you. So it's like, we're not locked into it, but I'm not saying that we should change, but it's certainly good to maybe find out what other departments or other agencies are doing.
Yeah.
Sandelbeck.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if I can make a recommendation, we felt we were pressed and needed to get this. Hence the reason it was part of this agenda. After meeting with Chris and having the discussion in the secondaries, information from the study, I'd like to recommend that we not make any movement on this, and we button it up at the time that we need it. So we have a little bit of time now. Let's take advantage of that time, bring it back to you in the same format
Excuse me,
Paul?
how much time do we have, Chief?
next year.
Okay.
Last year. So we were pressed initially, that's why it was on the agenda, we're no longer pressed. So just to kind of keep it in the confines of the year that it happens, I prefer to just move it forward.
And the pressing part was, is we originally thought we needed that contribution in 2025 to make it whole. Since then, we found out that we don't need it for 2025. It's not a large number. When you talk about the rate of return, by them changing it from 7% to 6%, dropped $20,000 out of the study right there. So I don't think, you know, it's not like the fund is in danger and that we gotta have those dollars to stay solvent and solid. But we're just, I guess, in the transparency world and making sure that you know that what we were asked for was based on the knowledge we had on that day. And after a little bit more review, it's like we do have more time to do this.
Right. Any more comments or questions?
Thank you.
So
John,
sounds like we got some things to do. Is it simply just tabling this?
we're gonna table it sounds like, unless somebody wants to make a motion. Jim, questions, comments, Paul?
Do we need a motion to table it? Do you wanna table it, or do you just wanna add it to a future agenda?
I'll add it to the future agenda if you're good with that.
Everybody good with that? Chris, it's always good to have you here. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Chris. Thank you. Thank you.
Good luck with the rest of your meeting. Have fun.
You know, I'm gonna apologize to the sheriff, because I didn't even notice him sitting back there. But we're very honored to have the sheriff of Larimer County here, Sheriff Payne. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Any comments or anything you'd like to say to the board, or?
No, I just appreciate the opportunity. I mean, I'm here not as a sheriff, but I actually live in the LFRA area. And since it's an open meeting, I thought I'd take the opportunity to come visit Thompson Valley EMS board meetings as well as the fire authority board, just to learn more about what our first response partners across the county are doing and what their priorities are, because you've learned what your priority is. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. By the way, I enjoyed your wife's comments at the 9/11 ceremony over at the Hammond Amphitheater.
I appreciate that. She
Yeah.
did such a nice job. I'm talking to her about running for sheriff.
Careful, she might win. Okay, that will take us to number 3, receive a presentation from BB Research Consulting regarding the LFRA's impact fee study.
All right, Mr. Chairman, we have Michael here from BBC Research and Consulting. So I'm gonna real quickly share his presentation with you. I'm gonna try to share. Michael, this isn't set up as a PowerPoint, but I'll toggle through it for you.
That's great. Thanks so much. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. I'm Michael Verdone. I'm a managing director at BBC Research and Consulting. We specialize in doing impact fee studies, primarily for fire protection and fire rescue districts. So it's an honor to work with you all again. We did the last study, I believe, in 2018. And so this is an update to that study. So we can go to the next slide, please.
Hang on, Mike. I'm trying to toggle through a PDF here. Is that number 2?
I think maybe go back one. There we go.
All right, sorry.
Or actually one more. Sorry, there's one slide in this.
There you go.
Perfect. So just a bit of background. So we did conduct a study, I guess it was in 2020, and fees were set for single family, multifamily, commercial and industrial structures. This update changed some of the categorizations. We added some more non-residential in order to sort of tailor the impacts to those specific categories, and the method changed as well. So I'll discuss that more as we go through the process, and we can go to the next slide. So we go to the next.
Nope.
Oh, that is perfect. So just a quick overview of impact fees in Colorado, what they are, how they're meant to be used. So these are one-time charges that are imposed on new development. Generally, there has to be a triggering activity. That's when a building permit's pulled typically. So that's when the fee will be paid. The studies themselves need to quantify the reasonable impacts of new development, but there is no standard of mathematical exactitude, right? So we just need to have a reasonable approach to estimating what we think the impacts are, and they need to be roughly proportional to the amount it will cost you to mitigate those impacts. But again, it doesn't need to be precise down to the decimal place. The fees cannot be used to remedy existing deficiencies. So for example, if tomorrow this roof caved in because of some structural deficiency with the station, you couldn't use impact fees to repair that roof, but you can use it to expand a station, to incorporate additional floor area that you might need to add a bay or buy another engine, things like that. And then finally, landowners cannot be asked to provide site-specific dedications or improvements on top of paying a fee. So if you require someone to pay the fee, the idea is that money is enough for you to go buy the infrastructure that you need to provide fire service. But if you also said, hey, also you need to put sprinklers in, even though code doesn't demand it, that would be illegal by the way that the legislature has written the statutes. We can go to the next slide, please. So the process is fairly straightforward. The first step is really to look at what the service burden is, right? So who's getting served and to what extent. It's looking at the placement cost of your capital assets. If you had to go build or buy everything that you use to provide fire protection service today, what would that cost? And then taking those first two pieces of information and using that to calculate the fees for different types of new development, so that again, their fee that they pay is proportional to the impact they create. You can go to the next slide, please. So starting with the service burden, we generally look at this in terms of patterns of development, so who's being served. So we collect information from the county assessor and go through that to identify all the different types of development. So generally, if we look at sort of residential and non-residential as two distinct categories, about 70% of the building area that you protect is residential and about 30% is non-residential. And so those splits then become important when we start allocating the cost that you need to replicate through your impact fee schedule. And we can go to the next slide. So this is a list of all of the capital, what the legislature would call the capital facilities that you have that allow you to provide fire protection service, and an estimate of what it would cost if you had to replace all those assets today. In total, there's about $103 million worth of capital facilities that you all use to provide fire protection service. And so the idea is that as new development comes in, they need to basically replicate this standard of capital facilities. Go to the next slide. And so what we do to calculate the fees is essentially say, okay, of that 100 million, we know about 70% of all development is residential. So residential is responsible for about 70% of the costs of these fees. And so that results in a shared value of capital of about $73 million for residential development. We know based on the different sizes of dwellings, what percentage each dwelling size represents. So for example, about 8.8% of all homes in your service area are 1,200 square feet or less. So of that 73 million, about 8.8% would be assigned to those homes. And then we know how many of those homes exist, so we do the division, and that gives us a fee of about $986 per home that's 1,200 square feet or less. And we go through that same math for all the different home sizes. And what that gives us is this graduated schedule you can see highlighted in green. That ranges from, again, about $986 for dwellings up to 1,200 square feet, all the way up to $5,800 for dwellings that are 4,800 square feet or larger. The purpose of this graduated schedule is twofold. One, larger homes are going to require a little bit more protection, but also this means that homes that are smaller are going to be relatively more affordable. You're not charging a high fee to everybody. It's only based on the size of the home. So there's a little bit of an affordability. The homes are basically, you've got some way to basically incentivize more affordable homes within your service area. And so this is one way of addressing sort of the affordability issue that we see in a lot of different service areas. We can go to the next slide. So for non-residential, it's a little bit different there. We're looking more at the intensity of the use. So again, we're taking that 100 million. We know about 30% of all your development's non-residential. So there's about $31 million assigned to that group. But then instead of looking at the size, what we're looking at are the intensity of that use. So how many employees do we expect in each of these different non-residential uses on a per 1,000 square foot basis? So many people are kind of coming in and out of these spaces every day. Once we know that and we know the footprint of that development, we can look at the share of the total employment and the square footage and use that to derive the fees in the green. And you can see they range from about 22 cents per square foot for warehouse and storage, all the way up to $1.83 for office space. And so these are the fees that we're recommending you would charge to the different non-residential uses. We can go to the next slide, please. So this is a table just showing what your fees currently are and what we're proposing. So I think the first thing you'll notice is that there are many more categories of development in the proposed update than there were in the fees that you currently have. So the old schedule just had a single family fee and a multifamily fee. Again, we're introducing this graduated schedule for the residential impact fees. And then you can see we've also added more non-residential categories as well. This is important because there have been changes at the Supreme Court in terms of how they think about these fees. And one of the things that's important is that the fees really need to reflect impacts for broad categories of development, but not too broad. So when we lump all the non-residential development into, let's say, commercial and retail, we're missing things like office space, public and institutional space. By having those categories, you're sort of speaking to the way that the court interprets the constitutionality of these fees. You can go to the next slide. So our recommendations are to implement the fee schedule as proposed in our report, and making sure that they are charged those different types of development. With speaking to the chief, we also believe that as you adopt this resolution, you would put in provisions for a 20% reduction on fees for any building that adopts sprinklers that are non-mandatory as part of their code. So again, that's sort of just an incentive for them to do the right thing. Again, affordable housing is addressed through the fee structure itself, so that tiered rate that increases with the size of the homes. We believe you should allow the development community about 3 to 6 months notice before you implement these fees, because if they have projects that are already under development, they're lining up finance, and all of a sudden the fees roll out and they're higher, that could really throw sort of a wrench in their gears. And so it's just good practice to give them that notice of a couple of months lead time so they can build that into any of their financial planning. We can go to the next slide. Between updates, we would recommend every year that you just adjust the fees for inflation, so you can use a variety of inflation indices. We use generally an engineering and construction index. And so if that index says, hey, prices went up 4% since last year, then you would update your fees by 4%. So what this does is essentially allows your fees to keep up with the cost of building out your infrastructure. In between the larger updates that you would do every 5 to 7 years. If you don't do this, what it means is basically your purchasing power is eroding every single year. You're not gonna have the money you need to build out your capital facilities. Again, update the study every 3 to 5 years, or could be 3 to 7, depends on how much is changing within your service area, but also within the district itself. And then finally, you should establish a process to address some unique scenarios. So someone might have a development that they say, look, this really is unlike anything you've ever seen. And it demands sort of having its own calculations made to determine what the fee should be. That's really part of the Supreme Court case that we saw last year called Sheets versus County of El Dorado. So this is getting more common where someone with a large planned unit development might come in and say, look, our fees are our whole development's different and we want to go through a process to prove it. So a lot of our attorneys are telling us to have our clients put this into their resolution so that that process can be implemented. And with that, I will stop and take any questions that you might have.
Board, any questions?
I have a quick one, Michael. So the last bullet on your previous slide, you mentioned a process to basically look at a different fee structure, or currently you can do that with the county under your taxes, right? Are you suggesting that each individual could do that, or is it that you mentioned developer, but I'm just curious. I mean, that's a big ask of any department to start to have a staff that looks at any of those.
Two important things. One, that would not be your responsibility. You're just allowing for someone to be able to show you that their impacts are somewhat different, but it's up to them to basically do the work that will show that. So to give you an example, I'm working with a developer in Fort Collins who paid an impact fee for water, right? They have to dedicate so much water per house. But their specific development uses a lot less water than a typical home. And so they're going through a process to show that, look, we don't use anything like the amount of water you're requiring us to dedicate. And that's essentially what that process would allow for.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jim?
Yeah, I have a couple questions if you don't mind.
Of course.
I don't know what stage it is, but the current first proposed fee slide, go back there just real quick. So we're going from on a single family residential, the 1,061, but if you're over 4,800 for a home, you're gonna be paying the 5,894, correct?
That's correct.
But anything less than 1,200, is that? It will be less than the current fee, right? It actually went down, so you talk about affordability, but because I had these questions recently on our water impact fee discussion we had at the city, and so I had a lot of questions afterwards from the development community. One of the issues that came up was, is that total square foot finished and unfinished, correct?
That's finished.
Because a lot of people finish and then they don't get a permit, and we get all those other, we have the issue for that. But then you're basically, before you adjust increase in fees, you're basically anything over a 1,200, at a single or two levels, so you're really kind of a small footprint to begin with. Because if you have an unfinished basement or a basement, that gets you 2,400 quickly and you would be an increase. So most of the newer things that were homes that are coming in, or the few that we've had that are affordable, are still going to be probably at a higher amount than what we're currently at. And so I want to be careful to say that we're trying to create affordability. It's more apartment condo type scenario than it is for affordability in the real world. So I just want to, if that statement you think is correct.
I think that's reasonable, sure.
Okay, and then on the commercial side, in particular, industrial and manufacturing, that's the more popular right now in the marketplace, right? Commercial office space, nobody knows where that's still going today, but industrial seems to be more active. We're going from 13 cents to 98 cents a square foot. Is there, why such a massive increase of 8 times or what have you?
Sure, that's a great question. So the primary difference is the change in methodology. So in the last study, we used what was called a plan-based approach. So that's really looking at you all saying, we're looking out 5 years and basically identifying capital that we think we're going to purchase to accommodate the growth that we expect. The study that we've presented today is based on what we call sort of a capital buy-in approach, right? So it's the difference is that instead of thinking about what sort of growth do we anticipate, is saying, what do we think everybody has invested in all of your infrastructure by the different types of development that you would see in your service area? And anyone else who comes in basically needs to replicate that standard. So it's a little bit more generous to the district to do it the way that we did in this study than it is to use the plan-based. And that's really where that difference comes from. So it's not that the impact of industrial and manufacturing is in fact 8 times more impactful today than it was when we last did the study. It's that this study just uses a different approach of approximating what we think the impact is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because that's usually the question, to make sure you have the nexus, so you don't have to taking in all the other wonderful things, right? So at the end of the day, it has logical sense. In our last, if I wait one more, in our last study that we did, to set the original ones, which were very minimal, and now we're really getting to where we should be. Was there any increase other than what we determined here? You're using you're giving us a methodology for the next 3 to 5 years until we do the next study to give us a methodology to use. But yeah, I'm just curious on the last one, because some of these are fairly substantial increases. One, we could have more capital needs and more needs down the road that we didn't anticipate originally, and all those other good things that went into the original formula. But I'm just trying to not wait 3 to 5 years and all of a sudden we have a huge increase again and we left money on the table, because you never know when you're going to hit that market demand of when building's occurring. And if you raise your rates during a downturn in the building side and you missed it during the building boom, then you're really cut yourself short to meet the future needs, and then your rates got to triple rather than just double. So
sure, that's a great question. So one of the reasons I like using the method that we did on the update today is that it essentially says, look, if your development doubles, the service area you serve basically is twice as much of everything. They are going to pay enough in impact fees to basically go build out your system once again, right? The entire thing, where the plan-based approach wouldn't necessarily allow for that. If you didn't identify it in the plan, there'd be no fees collected for it. This essentially says, look, anything that you own is part of the calculation. So any development that occurs is paying incrementally for their specific piece of it. So it doesn't really result in that scenario where the development would sort of not pay enough for you to build out that system. In fact, it would allow you to build out your system exactly as it is today.
Great, thank you. Welcome. Thank you.
Mayor?
Yeah, I don't know, it's really a question. I appreciate, you spelling out kind of the plan-based and the capital buy-in. I appreciate, updating our impact fees. Your last paragraph, where LFRA should establish a process to address unique scenarios. I appreciate that the smaller home is gonna be charged less, which we want to encourage affordable housing development, right? But we also want to encourage thinking outside the box. And the example that came to mind for me was the Marisol greenhouse. That is a fairly large structure because it's a community kitchen, a community great room, community living room, but then 10 individual apartments. So we want to encourage that because it's a more affordable way for 10 people to live. And so your suggestion that we come up with a process, because right now our affordable housing is basically developed by Loveland Housing Authority, Habitat, and maybe Aspen Homes. We want to open that door to more people being willing to. So to have something that a developer can have their head around before they actually go through the process of, spending money and developing plans and stuff, that they could say, hey, here's, a community living situation that the impact fees may not apply for because it's a big footprint. We don't want to have somebody not do such a development because they think it's unaffordable. It's, just a comment. What you're doing.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I think my question has been answered. You used a couple words that always gathers attention, and that's affordable housing, especially in this community, in this state. Jim went into great detail in terms of rates and upstairs, downstairs, and finished, unfinished. I appreciate that. Thinking out of the box is something we should always endeavor to do, but do you have anything further we can take back to our citizens? And that this improves the whole concept of affordable housing that we haven't discussed?
I mean, I don't know that you could go so far as to say this improves affordable housing as much as that it just allows for smaller homes to pay less. And the other alternative that you see in some impact fee schedules is that you just get one average for all homes of all sizes, right? So that basically means a small home is gonna pay the same as a 6,000 square foot home. So it's really just that graduated schedule itself that sort of speaks to the affordability.
Okay, thank you for, you're welcome.
Other comments from the board? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Michael.
Chief, comments? Okay, we're not being asked to do anything here, is that correct?
You're not, so I would like to ask if you want me to do anything. So in terms of adopting the higher impact fees, there's a couple options that are available to the board, if that's something that you want to do. The authority does currently have impact fees. They were adopted at a time that the authorization for fire department impact fees existed in Title 29, which is actually the municipal code. And it said that in order to adopt impact fees as a fire department, you have to get the permission of the county or municipality where they're being collected, and you have to enter into an IGA. And so LFRA actually did that, which they're the only jurisdiction I know of that successfully did it with 3 different agencies: the city of Loveland, the town of Johnstown, and Lamar County, and it's worked quite well. Since then, however, the statutes have changed, and those provisions of Title 29 were repealed. And now the provisions for adopting impact fees exist in Title 32, which is the Special District Act, and you get to kind of coattail on that. And you now have the ability to adopt impact fees directly without the involvement of the municipalities or county. It doesn't mean you have to do it that way, it means it's an option. The benefit of doing it that way is we can do it directly through a more streamlined process. The drawback of doing it that way is right now, some of your partners are collecting that impact fee directly from the developer and remitting it to you, which is a one-stop shop for them, and you would likely lose that, right? You would be then responsible for going to every developer on your own. So we had begun working through the process of preparing updated agreements under the new statutes, but put the brakes on that because we knew the new study was coming. So at this point, from my perspective as legal, we've got 3 options. One is further revise the IGAs and start talking with partners about new IGAs with the updated fee amount. One option is maybe we just terminate the IGAs and we collect it ourselves and follow the new statutory process. And the third is we're not really ready to make that decision yet. Let's just table it and talk about it later.
How big a hurry is there?
It's hard to say. So from my perspective, sooner is better because right now you're operating under IGAs that are based on statutes that don't exist. So I'd like to get that cleaned up. But you've been operating that way for a year now. So if you want to give it a couple of months and get through your budget and then decide, like, I can get on board with that as well.
Jim, I know you got some experience here. What's your thoughts?
I think we should clean it up, you know, just that's my personal thing. 1, number 2, I'd like to see the fees in place. Because that will help then with some of the issues we'll have in our budget discussion and taking care of the future. And if the study shows that we need to increase them to the levels we do, there's no better time than now to make sure that we have adequate funds to meet those needs in the future or the impact that they put on the project, right? So we have that nexus. So I would agree with that. The question whether or not we collect them ourselves, that's the capacity here to be able to collect them. That's also, you don't want the permit issued from the city standpoint. We still haven't collected the fire fee and then we'd still have to have that communication. So I'm not sure at the end of the day what that looks like, but that's just a quick amendment to the IGA to say that the city's going to collect it for you. Here's your new fees and we're going to turn it over to you if you all want to collect it. Actually better, they're not as mad as at the city when they have to pay their fee. They're still mad, but they're not as mad. Maybe I don't know because of the increase. But either way, and I think that's just something that we can work through. I just don't want the point where they come in and pay all their fees, we issue a permit, and then you say, oops, they never paid the fire side.
Yeah.
And then how do we go back and collect it? And I want to make sure that we don't have that weakness in it. But the sooner we can get it to a point where we're collecting them, the happier I would be because we've completed the study, it shows that we're way behind. And I just think it's a good point, and then we might then have additional funds for some of the items in the budget that are future needs that don't exist because of the growth that's anticipated. So-
Well, I had it on my work list, knowing that this conversation was coming, to update those IGAs in the first week of October. And then circulate back out to the legal councils for the Lamar County, City of Loveland and the town of Johnstown. I just didn't want to do it if you guys wanted to give me different direction, but if that's still the path we're on, I'll go ahead and continue working on getting those IGAs cleaned up for comment.
Chief, you had your hand up. here.
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up, because our goal was January 1. We started down this path, just to create some clarity here. We started down this path. Emily was working on the IGAs. Because we hadn't had the study completed, we pulled back. It was gonna be so close. It didn't make sense for us to implement a new IGA and then do it again within a matter of 3 months. So the objective is get everything cleaned up for January 1, full implementation of the fees. Having said that, Jim, what you had brought up, we are gonna face that, and I concur with you that there is gonna be some frustration. Johnstown has already told us that the responsibility will be on us. They will notify us of the developments, and then we will have to chase those funds, which is unfortunate, but to your point, he doesn't have the staff, so basically he's putting it on us. So we know that going in, that we're gonna have that. We have it with our regular fees as well.
Well, Emily, if I could, how long will it take you to spin this up and put a bow around it, do you think?
It'll take a day for me to clean up the IGAs, but I can't guarantee how quickly I can hear back from the other legals.
Is a month reasonable?
Or 2 of them.
Okay.
You know, if we let them know these really need to be in place by January 1, are you all meeting in December on your normal date? It would be New Year's Eve. I'm happy to
Probably
be
not.
here. I don't know if you all will
Probably
be
not
here.
gonna be on here.
Do you plan to meet in late December though?
Hope so.
Okay. The Wednesday before that's Christmas Eve, so you're probably looking at just meeting on a different day, or the 17th. Do you think the 17th probably? I can communicate to them that the board intends to adopt these IGAs in December, so I really need a quick turn. We are at the very end, like literally ready to adopt with Loveland and Johnstown. So my hope would be that I will add some generic language that if there is a unique development and the developer in good faith believes that they should be afforded an opportunity to present alternate information, that they can contact the district and we will consider that. I would hope that this will sail right through, and then we'll see how we can move along.
John, did you have a comment?
Just a comment, Johnstown is expecting great growth. Huge growth. Announced growth. So my only comment is sooner we get this in place to collect our money, the better off.
We'll have an update for you in October.
Your motion. No, comments or a motion, any? I open it up to the board.
Forward with updating IGAs.
There's been a motion made to move forward, updating the IGAs. Is there a second? Paul seconds it. Further comments? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
We'll keep that moving.
All right, thank you, thank you. Okay. That takes us to conduct a public hearing and consider a motion to adopt resolution R-178, adopting a supplemental budget regarding appropriation monies to and expenditure of monies from the LFRA fleet replacement fund. So I'm gonna open it up for someone to make a motion to that effect. Board.
So made.
Is there a second? Second. Further discussion? Hearing none, we're now going to open this up as a public hearing. So public. Sheriff, come on.
Prepare for comments.
Careful, Jeff, careful.
Everybody, anybody out on the internet,
Anyone online who would like to make public comment, please use the raise your hand feature.
Okay, without further comments from the public, I need a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Swanee, can I make my certification?
You're ready, Sheriff.
Right, Jewelry.
Thank you, thank you.
I do want to certify for the record that notice of today's public hearing was duly published as required by law, and the authority also received no public comment prior to today's public.
Thank you, Emily. Okay, need a, chief, do you want to comment on this or?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, if I could, and then I'll turn it over to Chief Ward. As you know, our ladder truck was involved in an accident responding to a structure fire in Berthoud on September 2nd. Fortunately, none of our staff were injured. The civilian that was involved in it was mildly injured, but could have been much, much worse. It was a T-bone at an intersection on Cleveland. Our folks were in the right. We had a green light. This gentleman ran the intersection and obviously resulted in a collision. Unfortunately, it did substantial damage to our reserve ladder truck. I'll let Chief Ward go into the details of that. And what we're asking for in the agenda, you see $150,000 request. So what we're trying to do is, while it's a reserve ladder truck, we cannot go without a reserve ladder truck. One goes down, we have to be able to put another one in place. As you know, we have one on order. We do not expect to get that until late next year. So that's a $2.2 million piece of apparatus that is out there. So Chief Ward has done due diligence in trying to come up with a financial plan to basically carry us forward. So I'll let him go with this presentation.
Okay, thank you, Board. Before we get started, I just want to mention that Lieutenant Hinsman sitting in the back of the room. Lieutenant Hinsman was the officer on the ladder truck early that morning, was involved in the accident, and to go from responding to an incident to in a second being an incident yourself, the crew performed exceptionally well in caring for the injured civilian, and so I'm proud of their efforts and what they did, and they were doing everything right. So this was the incident. It was they weren't initially on the assignment. It was the rescue was down there as the support company, but with fire through the roof, significant attic involvement, the incident commander called for a ladder truck, and so the ladder truck was added to the assignment, and they were responding to this fire. This is the street camera video. You be able to watch the collision.
So if you're looking at it, you see the hotel there on the right. So you're coming south on Cleveland. This is the police officer who's shaky. It's not Chief Ward.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So pretty significant collision. They ended up about 300 feet south of the intersection. Lieutenant Hinsman told me he got out of the truck to get the extrication tools, which we carry in the front bumper, and the front bumper wasn't there to be able to get those tools. So that's what the ladder truck looked like, the car that was involved in the incident. The big thing with the ladder truck is the cab is sitting crooked on it now, and it on the officer side, it impacted the body of the truck, and all the way back to the pump on the truck, there's damage to the truck. So ladder 51, that was a 2001 HME Smeel 105-foot ladder truck. That's our reserve, not only for the tower when the tower's in for maintenance or repair, but it's also our reserve for the rescue truck when the rescue's in for maintenance and repair. So it gets used quite a bit. For the accident, LPD conducted the accident investigation. The driver of the other vehicle was issued a ticket for the red light. The ladder's been out of service at Fleet, being evaluated by Fleet, SBI, and this morning the insurance adjuster came and looked at it as well. The insurance company is working on the claim. They're working with the driver's insurance company. We don't have a lot of background or information coming our way yet on that. Currently, we're using Berthoud's ladder truck as our reserve ladder truck. It's sitting down here in the bay. And we're doing that through an IGA we have with several fire agencies in northern Colorado for apparatus sharing, apparatus loaning, and it's designed for short-term use. And Berthoud was gracious enough to allow us to use their ladder. The new tower that we have on order, as Chief mentioned, the delivery date that I received on that, right after this happened, I called them, when's our truck coming? And it's been pushed back from spring, late spring to now till September 28th of next year. So we have a year, we have to fill a gap for a year. And just a reminder with the equipment, the new ladder tower is about 2.3 million today's dollars. Some of the options we've looked at, SBI, so the best fix, the right fix for that truck is a cab and chassis. That particular manufacturer, they're still in business, HME that built the cab, but they only build engines. They don't build a ladder truck, so they don't have chassis that are that long, for a ladder truck anymore. They just don't do that. So we'd have to switch brands, which SBI wasn't too concerned about. But the cost of that's $925,000 is what they estimated. That's 10 months to wait for a cab and chassis to show up, and probably another 4 months they anticipated to move the ladder, the pump, all the compartments and everything over to the new one. So we're 14 months in, the new ladder truck will be here, in just over 12 months. So that one, I don't know that makes sense. If there was more time, if we still needed it for a few years, I think that would be a great option to look at. But probably not in this situation. SBI said we could get it moved up to their location and they would try and get the cab tilted, which is going to be a chore in itself because the cab rotates, tilts forward, but it's completely twisted. And so they said if we can get it tilted, they could take a better look at the damage and see what's really going on under there. And if they could fix it, they estimated $170,000 to $215,000 to fix the damage. Like I said, they don't make that cab anymore either, so anything would be custom fabricated, the whole front fascia and stuff. SBI would have to do that. They said it'd take $10,000 to $12,000 to get it up there and for them to get that assessment done. So that's a possibility. If they get it up there, get it tilted and say they could fix it, they thought they could have it done sometime around the first of the year for us. So not too bad of an option. We looked into renting a ladder truck. There are places out there. There's dealers that they deal in used fire trucks, fire engines, and they do rent some out. And I checked on that for a year. It would probably be actually a little more than that by the time we got the new one in service. They would do a ladder test to make sure the ladder was safe and was in compliance, a pump test, a safety check, and then send it our way. $300 a day, and any other problems with that truck is on us. So if it shows up and 2 weeks later the transmission goes out, that's us. And when you look at that, that's for 365 days, we're $110,000 or so. So the next option is the option I think is our best option. The ladder truck we're currently borrowing from Berthoud, they had just put that up for sale. It's basically the same year. It's a year different than the one that we have, the reserve that was in the accident. Biggest difference is it's got 25 feet shorter ladder than the one we normally run. But our shop, our fleet staff takes care of the Berthoud apparatus, so they're very familiar with it. They've done a lot of work over the last few years on it, and they're very comfortable with it. The operation of the aerial itself is actually the same as our reserve truck because the aerial piece was built by the same company on ours and theirs. So I think that's a bonus for us. They had it appraised at 150,000. They had it on the market for 125 and it hasn't gone to their board yet, but their logistics team told me that for 115 is what for LFRA that they would sell it to us. So that's the target. That's what I'd like to do. I think it's the best option for us. We're just in a really weird time with this, with that new one coming and just having that 1 year to fill. And so it's difficult to make a really good, solid decision. I think we have to make a decision to get us by for a year. And then we can turn around once we get the new truck in. If we decide to sell the berthed ladder, we can recoup some of that back. Insurance funds should help us recoup some of that back. Their SBI said there might be a market for the one that is wrecked because somebody that is looking for a brand new ladder truck that wants one for half price or so may want to take that project on and has the time to take it on to have a new cab and chassis put on that. And we may be able to sell the portion that's the aerial ladder to pump the compartments. So that's the ask. I think we we did 150,000. That's when we didn't have some of this locked in. So it would be 115 plus we need to change the berth it out to leveling out with some graphics and stuff on it. So it'll be less than the 150 that we have in our proposal. Or group one would achieve this. But that's the berthed ladder. And if you have any questions.
Jim, Paul?
I've got a question, sorry.
Go ahead.
Chief Ward, do you have any idea what the insurance payout might be?
Yeah, Kim, I don't know if Kim is just sitting here, she's been working with the insurance and she said the replacement value that we had listed in there was right around 500,000. I just don't know what they actually, if they pay that whole thing or not, I'm not sure. I do know that she did say that whatever the other car's insurance doesn't cover and we make up, then that impacts our insurance rates, that difference.
Sure.
So that's no good for us, but.
Thank you.
Jim?
Yeah, just a couple if I may. The insurance was part of that question and obviously on the replacement value, if it's a loss, it may not because of its age and all the other good things and you know, who knows where we land. I'm okay with I think that's probably the best option. It's a product we know and we're not taking the risk for $5,000 difference at the end of the day for that. Granted, you may have 5 or 10 grand more and retrofitting to fit our needs, but so that part's okay, but I'm really curious about the impacts on the financial because we're going to talk about the budget next. And so we're going to take it out of the fleet side, but the fleet's probably depleted because we're buying the new vehicle, the 2.3. So I don't know if we've have replenishment money in there. So it'd be hit to another vehicle that we would have to replenish at some point, maybe at the tail end when we hopefully can sell this back out in the market for a similar price, or the insurance, as you noted, you know, replaces that value. So again, if we don't know where we're at with the insurance yet, it's a harder discussion because now it's going to be a hit to the fund balance, which then impacts us. But if we get more than the 110, 115, 120, whatever the number ends up being, any number above that will actually add to the fund balance and help our fiscal position for the next budget discussion. So it's more of a statement than a question in there, other than I'm really curious about where the insurance lands. So if you come back and share that at a future point in time, I agree with your guys' position on which option is best right now, but I just wanted to make sure we circle back so we know what that is.
And that was exactly Andrea's concern and as we were working through this was being able to replenish that account. I think with this, if we could turn around and get even 90,000 out of selling this a year from now, I think we're well on the way to replenishing that, and she was comfortable with next year with what we had in there for the vehicles, that we were gonna be okay for this cheaper.
Yeah, but your point is well taken. The downstream effects are difficult. And I don't see any other financial option that's doable. Getting some return on selling this is hopeful. I'm not sure there's any other option, really. So, I mean, 115, and then we give a little bit, to your point, to make it ours. If we could get approval for the 125, that would come out of the apparatus replacement.
John?
Couple things, just kind of observation, how do you miss a fire truck coming, a ladder truck
Obviously, he didn't miss it.
with lights and something, you run them out, right?
Yes.
I don't get it, but anyway, set that aside. Sheriff Swante, insurance background, I'm insurance background, he's chomping at the bit. All of what you guys discussed is options. Thing that I'd be curious about, when you have a personal auto and it's in the shop for a while, if you have rental coverage, that helps out. Do we have that? Have we got that deep, or is that an option?
That piece, I don't know. Yeah, right.
That might be something you might.
Yeah, we can check on it.
You're exactly right. That's my thoughts. Loss of use, rental vehicles, and there's also one about the terminology replacement cost, because normally that means new for old, that they should make you whole on it. Actual cash value, they depreciate it and you take a little bit of a loss on it. But it sounds like on the surface that they should be treating us a little bit better on how this is being settled.
Not sure we're gonna argue that.
John will take a look at all this, by the way.
I gave up my license. While
Does Matt get the bumper as a trophy though?
I think he wanted the whole truck.
Is that the Bertha truck downstairs right now?
Yeah,
Halfway parked in? Okay. I didn't notice it. I thought it was just.
if it has a white top on it, it's the Bertha.
A little bit off topic, you said the ladder's 25 feet shorter. Does somebody in the area have one that makes up that 25 feet, and how often is that a concern, I guess?
Most of the time, it's not a concern. The house fires and things we go to, most of the time, it's okay, but a commercial building, something in the downtown area, multi-story, we'll definitely be calling PFA Windsor quicker than we normally would to get a 100-foot ladder truck coming on a building like that. But generally, for most of our fires, the 75-foot will work good. Have to park 25 feet closer.
So Bertha's primary truck, it's also only 75 feet?
Yeah, this is their one and only truck, and they're have made the decision that they don't need a ladder truck right now. And
Oh.
down the road, they're gonna look at that again when they open a third station and buy a truck for that station and staff it. Part of the goods and the bads about this truck was, they haven't done anything with it really since it's been here. It comes out for some training and their chief told me the other day, parades and stuff, and that's why when our fleet started to take over their fleet maintenance, it had quite a few issues that they had to work on. It wasn't overuse or worn out or anything. It was the lack of use on it. It's got really low miles and hours for its age.
Chief, any more comments on that, or?
No, rather than the 150 that's requested in the packet, looking for 125, and then obviously we'll come back with continual information in regards to insurance and any potential resale.
Open up to the board for a motion or additional comments.
Make the motion to appropriate the funds. Chief, excuse me, clarification, did you say you want 125 or 150?
120.
Appropriate the $125,000 to replace or to purchase the Bertha reserve truck or Bertha ladder truck.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Lieutenant, for surviving and. Okay, that will take us to number 5. Continue the public hearing from the August LFRA board meeting, consider a motion to adopt resolution R-174 adopting LFRA 2026 budget and consolidated fee schedule for LFRA, state of Colorado for the calendar year beginning first day of January 2026, and ending on the last day of December 26th. So need a motion to open a public hearing.
So move.
For second,
Second.
on favor, say aye. Aye. Emily, certify for the record.
Thank you. I will certify for the record that notice of today's public hearing was duly published as required by law and the authority received no public comment prior to today's public hearing.
Put your cuffs away, Sheriff. We're going. Okay, that will put us into a public hearing. Do we have any comments from the public? How about online?
I did not see anybody with their hands raised online.
Okay, hearing none, I need a motion to close the public hearing.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, at a request, we're gonna take a 5-minute break here.
Read my mind.
Yeah. We're back in session. All right, let's continue the public hearing. Chief, I'm gonna turn over to you.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I'm trying to get caught up here. Oops. I had too many PowerPoints. Give me a second. Okay, so Mr. Chairman, this is a continuation of our previous conversation, hence the reason it's reflective of September tenth. Per your request, I have met with city staff, city finance staff, shared kind of where we are and what we're proposing. So I know Brian wants to make some comments at some point. What I'd like to do is just kind of share this with you, but I'd also like to kind of explain the situation that we're in. So the city is coming up on their deadline as far as October, first week of October, I believe the third week of October to finalize the budget. So we've talked about a 2% contribution from the city and an equal match from the rural. So what I'm gonna do is I'll kind of go through very briefly.
Chief, just real quick, is it 2 or 2.5?
And I'll address that. So originally, when Sheep and I talked, we were at 2.5, but we went back to 2, but I am in a position to go forward with the 2.5, and I think I could absorb that because I had a little bit of fund balance left that I left on the table in our original presentation to council. So we would move our number to 2.5, and likewise, then on the 80-20 split, then you would move yours to the 2.5 or the 20. So that would give a little bit, but it's not a huge amount of money to make up the difference.
Ballpark figure, if you take that 0.5% plus matching from,
Less than 100,000.
how much?
Less than 100,000.
Okay, and will not reflect that, correct, your presentation, okay?
So that actually brings me to the point. What I'm gonna share with you and what we kind of came up with, we're not gonna be able to take action on because it's gonna be back to the rural board. So put that into context as we go through this. So this is really informational, and then there will have to be decisions made moving forward. So I'm gonna go through this very briefly. Again, I just want to remind you, again, I'm not trying to pressure anybody. I'm just trying to keep us on track of what's ahead of us. City council needs to approve the whole city budget, 2 separate readings, the first reading being the first week of October. So our attempt was to adopt our budget, take it forth to the city in August. So this is just kind of rehashing that. So a couple things in front of us, okay? So when we look at the contribution, and thank you, Chairman, for pointing out, this is reflective of 2%. So looking at the LFRA generated revenue at 368, I do want to highlight again that we have reduced our revenue based on projections for this year. So that 750 is the revenue that we're projecting. When you look at your fees and everything else that we've shared over the past 2 months, we did reduce that down. That includes the proposal for the new impact fees upon adoption. Now, I do have to state this. This does not hurt either organization. It hurts us when we overestimate. So when we overestimated at 11 or 1.1 million last year, that put us in a precarious position because we didn't hit that mark. Looking at the City of Loveland contribution at 2%, you will see there highlighted at 379. Looking at the rural contribution with their additional contribution, the total would be 136,647. So you look at that, the projected net revenue of 147,240. Then you look at the non-discretionary. Now these are, when we say non-discretionary, I just want to harp on this for a second, is these are things that the fire chief is not making a decision one way or the other on. These are things that we really have to do, whether we have a contract or it's just keeping pace with some of the, like, for example, the software increases. We don't control that, but we need the software to operate. I'll go into a little more detail here in just a second as we talk about the plan. So looking at it, total starting point is basically a decrease to fund balance of 108,160. In all fairness, I think if you went 2.5, you did the rural contribution, we would almost be exactly even. So here are everything's lumped together, so non-discretionary, everything is lumped into this chart. You'll see this chart here in just a second as we break it down and further dissect it. So this is the actual presentation that I want to share with you. So we're talking about the additional contribution of the rural. So if you remember, it was 13 FTEs, it's actually 15 positions, 13 full-time equivalents, because we have seasonals in there, which are part-time positions. So this was the plan. This is a Gantt chart. You'll look down at the bottom. Those are the projected hiring dates. And to the left are the positions. We have experienced a few things over the course of time that have changed this. You remember the agreement that we had. These positions were on a 3-year agreement or the formation of a fire district. So that is a curveball that we didn't prepare for, okay? So one of the things I did as we kind of had these conversations is it's actually a fire management analyst. This is our data and GIS analyst. That position had been placed on hold. We didn't move on that position after our initial round of interviews and subsequently the initial offer to a gal out of Grand Junction. She turned down the position, so we pulled it back and we haven't offered it again. The other position was the administrative battalion chief. We made no movement on that because that was a pretty expensive position. And from the start, my concern is the 2026 deadline, we would not be able to pay or absorb this position in its entirety. So those two positions have never hit the books as far as costs to either organization. So the other thing I'll throw in there is the grocery tax. Okay, when this agreement was put forth, the grocery tax wasn't an issue. The budget reductions were not an issue. The failed formation of the fire district was not an issue. The only thing that we feel like today, the only thing that we knew is that we had an end date of 2026. So we were working with that. So moving forward, what we have also held back is the lieutenant rovers. Now, you will see expenses here in just a second of what we have applied to those positions, because to hire a lieutenant, you have to train them up. Okay, so there's an academy. All of those expenses are going to be reflected, but we have not formally made those promotions. We've done the exact same thing with the engineers. So right now we have two promotional lists, an engineer's promotional list and a lieutenant's promotional list. We have not promoted anybody in those roles or capacities. We good?
Chief,
Yes,
excuse me, when you say lieutenant rovers, is that 2 positions or 1 position?
that is 3 positions.
Okay, I got you.
Yep, that is 3 positions in each slot.
Yeah,
Yep.
got you.
Now I'm showing green to the seasonal wildfire crew. Those are the 4 part-timers. So I'm showing green. The plan that I'm putting forth is moving them forward. Okay, we have not hired them to date. So that could potentially be an additional savings if necessary. So I'm going to add in that extra wrinkle here in just a second. As you dissect this further and further, as Andrea and I did, we found some additional concerns. So let me start with those rural funded positions. So here is the rural's contribution. This is above the 80-20 split. So you see it across each year, 1.4, 2.1, 2.1. The actual expenditures are there, and that's in accordance to the plan that we're getting ready to put forward. So you got 636, 635. One would say, why is the second year less than the first year? Because you have the spin up costs. So you got equipment and other items that are basically covered in the first year that aren't necessary in the second year. And then you got 750 on the back end. So then here's your overall additional savings there. The offset with overtime. So you take those numbers, and this is the projection for overtime, 2024, 715. Now, when I say overtime, this isn't just general overtime. This is focused on those lieutenants and engineers and obviously the firefighter roles, because everybody's moving up because we don't have people in promoted positions. So the offsets are reflective there. So basically, here is the savings, and I want to be very cautious when I say savings. To the restricted fund balance. okay, and this has been my direct direction to staff, is these are restricted funds. We don't spend these on anything else. I describe this as a project. Okay, so these 13 FTEs are a project. They're restricted in how we can use that money. Okay, so that's where we stand today. This, yeah,
I want to make sure I understand. So bottom right corner, the $1,053,000.
1 million.
1 million, I'm sorry, $53,000.
Yeah,
That's not gonna show up elsewhere in the budget as being spent somewhere? Okay, thank you.
correct. Nor is the 1.1, nor is the 131. So
Okay.
all of that is in a restricted fund balance. Okay, restricted to this project, those 13 FTEs.
So if I might.
Yeah,
So is that additive? So year 24 and 25, is that number actually 1 million?
You would take 131 plus the
add it to
1.1 plus the.
Right,
one
but
million.
I'm sorry, Chief, I'm just talking about the last 2 years. Those two are cumulative, right? So
Yes.
there's a pot of money that those are sitting in currently.
You're getting ready to see that.
Thank you.
yeah, ballpark figure. I'm going with yourself, Paul. I'm gonna confirm, we're understanding there's about $2.3 million.
I'm gonna say 2.311, or excuse me, 2.311069, lower
Okay.
right hand corner,
Okay, very good, thank you.
total unused contribution. Okay, don't focus on that just yet. Let me take you to another box, okay? We identified, this is the issue that has transpired. We've had 3 finance managers in basically the last 18 months. So what is transpired is this was the budgeted for LFRA regular personnel. This was the expenditure for LFRA personnel. The deficit is 871,000 and 922,000. So what Andrea has identified is that basically the percentages, we applied a percentage increase for each position. Okay, and what happened is when you hire somebody in a mid-year, the percentages were off. And then you start the next year and you just compound the problem. Okay, now she can explain it much better than me, and I apologize that she's not here. But the point is we are facing a deficit. I'm gonna move this forward and ask for your consideration as to how we can solve this for 2026. So where we are is basically we have an unused contribution of 131, 1.1, and just over $1 million. That total unused, as we just described, is 2.3 million. We have an apparatus contribution, okay, so our apparatus replacement fund, every year we contribute to that. In the budget that I had shared with you previously, we had allotted 756,000 to contribute to that. Now, we're gonna pull that back, is what I'm suggesting. Now, to Jim's comment earlier, this is a problem that is gonna catch up to us. If I had my druthers, I would have contributed 1.5 million this year to that fund. That is how far we are behind. Not to mention, now we're taking out 125,000 more from that account. So when we went down the budget reduction process for 2025, one of the things we said is we'll basically elongate the replacement of our apparatus. Now, Fraser had suggested 10 years. I cannot extend apparatus life by 10 years. It literally, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, it would have antique plates on it the day it left here, okay? Can we elongate that slightly? Yeah, I think we're gonna have to. So that's what's basically gonna be the downstream effect of taking 756 back from that and basically applying it to solve this problem. Am I making sense? Okay, so those are the funds that we're gonna attempt to use. Here's the number that you're gonna see move forward, okay? So combining those, you got basically $3 million. So now we go back to the original list that I shared with you, okay? We had this conversation about wages. What we had put in the budget was a wage increase for 4%. Now, that doesn't mean every employee gets 4%. That's kind of a pot of money, and Andrea disperses it out in accordance to where everybody falls in their steps and so forth. Now, that's $744,000. I reduced that using basically the plan that we're putting forward, sorry, to 2%. Okay, so at 2%, that's basically $372,000, 386. Benefits. We talked about that. That's a 17% increase. Nothing I can do about that. We have to pay that. We retain our employees where they are today.
Chief,
Yes,
is
sir.
there any way to make those numbers
I was
bigger?
just-
My age is catching up
I was just
with
gonna
me.
ask
I
the same
cannot
thing.
read those numbers.
Let me see if I can do it.
We're gonna get billed for that.
Oh,
Better?
Is
a
that
little
better?
bit better?
You sound like an optometrist.
Better or sounded you.
It's two.
It's more, it's not quite so blurry, but it's still blurry.
Okay, I'll,
We don't have hard copies, right?
no, but we can produce them like that.
I think we can get through this. Thank you.
All right, so basically what I've done so far is the wage increase that we were asking for was 4%. I do want to go back to that just for a second. If we were staying in the competitive realm, the ask from Andrea, when she does the comparables, was 6%. Okay, so at 4%, we were falling behind. At 2%, we're most definitely falling behind. And Jim, I just want to clarify a comment that was made in a previous meeting. We are pursuing the 50 percentile, okay? We would love to be at the 70th percentile. We are not at the 70th percentile. We are not at the 50th percentile. That is what we're pursuing. Our goal would be the 70th. That make sense?
Now, this would be 2.5 though, right? Not 2.
No.
No, this
That,
stays 2.
that 2%, that there's not enough money in the 2.5% contribution of both parties to make that number up. Yeah, we can't
Okay, thank you.
combine the two. So the benefits, this plan would absorb that. So our employees would stay whole in their benefits with no ill effect to them. Overtime. So you see on the left, or some of you see on the left, it's at 220,000. That 220,000, this is in addition to the request that we're gonna put forth of the rural contribution. That is basically bumping it up by 100,000 versus 220. So I reduced that down to 120,000. Death and disability coverage at 50%. This was a plan that we were attempting to put forth that our folks pay 100% of their death and disability. We have found in our comparables that they pay for that. The employer pays that. So our goal was over a 2-year period to absorb that as the LFRA fully burdened on the employer and no burden on the employees. We have to take that off. So we can't make any movement on that in 2026. The radios, we have signed a 3-year lease for Motorola radios, and we have purchased BK radios. So that is a combination of a 3-year lease and BK radios amounting to 154,000. We've already committed to that. I can't pull that back. The inflation at 3%. That's 84,000. That's your utilities and all other expenses not directly related to employees. We had a request in there for USAR equipment at 53,000. So basically, I'm taking that back, attempting to extend the service life of that USAR equipment. CPS HR, that is our contractor that we use for our promotional exams. Because we will not be doing promotional exams, that's a savings of $47,000. Software increases. I referenced that, not a whole lot I can do there. That remains at 32,900. The cancer, heart and trust premium at 28,000, not a whole lot I can do there. Yes, sir.
Just a question, you're not doing the promotional exams. It didn't mean you're not doing promotions, correct?
I have a list, so I can promote. I just don't have to do any more exams. So,
Okay.
yeah, we would be prepared to do promotions if we had that contract. But right now I've got a list and I can work off of that list.
Excellent, thank you.
And I appreciate you bringing that point up. That list is a 1-year list, okay? So we can, over a course of a year, promote off of it.
Excuse me, Chief, but when did you establish that list? Just I want to make sure.
August.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
August. So we have 1 year,
Okay.
and then I have the option to extend that. So cancer, heart and trust, 28,000, nothing I can do there. Preventative maintenance for the radios, we talked about that. That is a imposed maintenance charge at 25,000, nothing I can do there. Station needs, I'm gonna cross that out momentarily. I'll come back to it in a lower segment. Hose replacements, this is reflecting 25,000. This original request was 50,000. I'm gonna reduce that down further, as you see, by another 15,000. So we will have $10,000 for hose replacements. Remember, it was at 50,000, so we've reduced it drastically. Training prop, this is Chief Class's attempt to basically maintain the residential building, which is the concrete building. So obviously we have the new burn building, but we have the residential building that we do maintenance on because it's still a very formidable prop for us. We will eliminate that 22,000. Cradle Point is basically a communications tool. So basically it gives us the ability to select wherever we have connectivity, whether it's T-Mobile or FirstNet. This is for a couple of units, I think 3 total units. We will scratch that. Station maintenance increase. So this is primarily going to be for Station 10. So when we built Station 10, as you know, and Mayor, I'll go back to you. You said there's a lot of grass here, and you were right. There's a lot of grass, trees, shrubs, and so forth. We just signed approximately a $12,000 landscaping contract for that. So if you take that number, we're gonna reduce that down by 13,000, so we'll have approximately $12,000 for station maintenance. Oops, workers' comp, not a whole lot I can do there. UKG implementation, this is our payroll software. This is going in concert with the city's increase at 11,000. The dive equipment, we're removing that. So we had 2 sets of dive gear that we're removing. Then the last item there is the AED replacements. So we're reducing that down to 2,000. We have 1 in reserve, reducing it down to $2,000 from 7,000. And then the workers' comp increase, that was absorbed above with the other increase that was literally bringing the volunteers under our workers' comp program. So when you look at that, basically you have the number of 3,067,000 at the top. You see the total with all the cuts and reductions, we came out to basically be within $1,488 of budget. Now, let me explain the hard part. That is taking the restricted funds and asking your permission to take them out of restricted status and apply them to our current budget situation.
Yeah.
Chief, so those were the 3 actually items that we talked about that added up. I'm trying to remember how you had.
Yeah, the apparatus?
Yeah. So those are the 3 plus the apparatus. Is that correct?
That is correct. You're saying the 3 years.
Yes.
Savings. Yes.
Plus
756 for the apparatus gives me this.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Jim.
Chief, just a quick clarifying question. So these items over here, kind of an exception budget approach, right, where you have the components of previously planned budget increases, not totality. So unless I misunderstood you, because if we go like, let's say on hoses, and you're going, down to your new number of 10,000 versus, what was requested over on the other side, which was, or kind of had to read when they 25.
Yeah,
And so, but that was a request for additional.
that's correct.
So you probably have a base amount out there, unless we never bought hoses in a previous year, but, so I'm assuming that, because when we said, we wouldn't, we're reducing our hose replacement down by 10. Well, really, we already have a number out there. I don't know if it's 10 grand, 50 grand, or 100 grand in your budget, right, in line items. So, but these were asked for additional funds above and beyond what you spent this year. Some may be new.
Yep.
Like the
Software.
shared costs and things like that, right?
Yeah.
But, so is that correct?
Yeah, so you got your non-discretionary and then you've got the increases with the reductions on that, yes.
Okay, thank you. And then the only other one is, obviously, this doesn't count the 0.5, so, left over, and you can even look at it from that perspective. I mean, if in fact, I think it's more of a district question than it is a city question at this time, is the use of the funds that you put forward for the, and if you're willing to let those be used for it. If you are, then the question of the 0.5 on both sides, the additions, and do you throw that towards the addition on the salaries to get closer to a number above the 2%, whatever number that is for that additional 0.5 on both sides may go to that. Because if you got 1,000 or 1,488 left at the end of the day, and you know, you'd go to another 118 grand, 120 grand, so you'd be at 121, and if you add that to the 2%, you know, you get another, you know, percent out of it almost, so. You know, that would be something to consider as well, that's where I would want to consider that at the end of the day, that 0.5 and 0.5 to go towards that portion as well, so for what it's worth, thank you.
Go ahead, Paul. So Chief, I appreciate this description, the hard work that went into this. What is the downside? Okay, I understand the 750 for apparatus, that's a big deal. I understand that's a big deal. So the other numbers, you know, the monies that were put in the bank from the rural that hadn't been spent. What's the downside? Is there any downside you see on this?
This,
Yes, sir.
yeah, I need 3 roving lieutenants, 3 roving engineers, and I need seasonal mitigation folks. And I'm not gonna dismiss the, you know, fire management analyst to our discussion earlier about data. That's that critical position, the BC, those, but we have, I mean, I would say, we've gotten along without those positions. I'm gonna come back to you again at some point and ask for those positions. The downside is there's gonna be overtime.
Well, that, if I could dovetail my next question, so how do you not have these positions? And I know we have ladies and gentlemen in the audience that are gonna throw stuff at me. How do you not have those positions that you need, and yet you can decrease your overtime? Those seem to be diametrically opposed.
I'm not in decrease my overtime. I cut my request because this plan has taken 360 from the unused funds on the rural
Okay, I
side.
see what you're saying.
Yeah, so I'm 360 plus 100. I was gonna try to get rid of the 360 by filling the position.
Okay, I mean, that's a tough decision.
Yeah, let me
A question, Jim. And again, I'm blind, but I don't see anything there. We used to have a reserve account. We were putting money into reserve accounts. We no longer do that.
we do, the fund balance is not reflected on here. That, and it's at 9%. I took that slide out. It's at 9%. We talked about the need to have it at 15%. That's the recommendation.
So what is the dollar amount in reserves and what are we contributing to it?
Same.
Afraid to reserve fund. Reserve fund, okay.
I totally deleted it. Sorry.
I think that'd be important to know, because reserves are there for times like this, I feel. And the other piece of my question is, how much more money would we need to come up with to go from 2% to 4% on payroll?
Andrea, right, can you help me there?
We would need another $325,000.
So that goes from 2 to 4. Okay.
The number on this times 2.
I'm sorry, what?
The 2, it'd be the number times, so let's just double it, that they had for the 2%. The difference between the 770 and the.
Yeah.
That would be,
Thanks, Andrea.
hopefully it includes benefits in it, which I would assume.
That's a good question. Is that fully burdened then? Thank you.
So if I can share, but before we get too far along, I just want to share this. So this is very, very similar to what you're reflecting, okay? This is moving the lieutenants forward. This is moving the rovers, engineer rovers forward. So if you go down at 1.859 on that third, or the 2026 projected column. Okay, but you can see the savings is now 131, 839, 303.
You
Okay,
lost
so-
me, Chief. Where are you at?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I need you to forward that. So here is basically our savings. Here, here, and here. That's moving the engineers, that's promoting the engineers and promoting the lieutenants there. Okay, so basically, we would have these figures to work with, which is dramatically less than what we're dealing with now. The proposal I put forward was not to promote these positions at this point. Okay, because I needed that money to make us whole in our current budget. Okay, now, the other thing that I have to share with you, if you'll move this forward for a second. Okay, just sharing that, go ahead. I'm making this slide work for a second, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Last one. Yeah, I think it, all right. All of this is not funded in 2027. So anything we do up here, including the 2% to 4%. I so appreciate that. They so appreciate that. I want everybody to understand, we are paying with one-time money for ongoing costs. Same thing with the 17% benefits. That's ongoing cost. That doesn't go away. That's gonna come back next year and I have no means of funding it.
So the buckets that you've used, if I may, the buckets you used, the $750 for apparatus and the leftover monies that the rural provided. After this, those are gone.
Expiration
2027.
date, yeah.
And I don't mean to be like Scarlett O'Hara, we'll never be hungry again, but we'll have to deal with that in 2027. This can give us a year to figure some things out. Is that what you're thinking, Chief?
Close, 6 months. My ask of you is we have to figure this out within 6 months. Because he's gonna be looking for budget numbers, Brian's gonna be developing a budget. And my ask would be is if we're able to solve this for 2026, and literally it is a Band-Aid. Okay, we are putting a Band-Aid on a bleeding wound. We have to have something formidable in 2026, within 6 months. That's not me putting pressure on anybody, that's the reality of what he faces and what he faces.
If I might ask, so ignorance on my part, but when we look at Centerra, right, and how those funds are gonna roll over, when does that happen? That they're rolled over to the city, so we have additional funding from that? Chief, you know, Jim?
2029.
Okay.
And later 23rd, because your property tax, sales tax. are
In arrears.
different. So with 2029 is the first year that we'll see that. And last we estimated it just over 5 million to the city, give or take. So, that's kind of where it'd be. I do have a couple more questions if I may have some.
Yeah, before we do, are we still getting an answer on reserves and what we're contributing to it? I don't want to lose sight of that.
Yeah. I don't wanna quote you a wrong number. So 2026 fund balance is gonna be 1.8. Fleet, this is not gonna be accurate, so, cause some of these are gonna be encumbered, so we got 4.1 million in fleet. Now that sounds like there's a bucket, okay?
But the other number was 1.8,
1.8 million,
and were we contributing something to it in this upcoming budget?
yeah.
We're putting nothing in reserves.
1,488 is what I would have been able to.
So that
I
one,
wished I could say it.
I'm sorry. They're spreadsheets. I was trying to make it as big as I could.
so that fund, excuse me,
Yeah.
Chief, but that fund balance will be available, not that we're gonna dip into it. Help me with this too, 2027, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
But I want to remind you, it's a 9%. We need it to be at 15%.
Understand.
Where's it at today?
9%,
What is the total dollar amount available today?
1.8 million.
You got that? That's not 26, 27. That's available today.
Copy.
And the only thing I would be contributing to that, and matter of fact, Chris Class just asked me to spend, what do you ask for? 1,509.
$1,500.
So I'm already in the hole. I'd be dipping into that in its current form.
No, we got it, and we certainly don't want to put a Band-Aid on it, but every year is important, and I think it's important to look at the picture in terms of what we have available to work with.
So if I may, Chair, if you're done, this fund that we're discussing, I'll call it an emergency fund. The city is mandated to have an emergency fund, right, by the state?
Well, you have the taper.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, please.
just the Tabor Reserve is mandated by the state. The 15% reserve, which is about 19 million right now, it's discretionary on the part of council, but it is best practice and it is informed by your fund balance policy.
Sure. All right, I'm gonna ask, this question might show my ignorance in this, but we took a lot out of the hoses. What happens if a hose fails? Does it just
Yeah.
lower pressure? Does it blow up in
No,
fireman's hands or?
you gotta understand, I mean, we're in the safety business, right?
Yeah.
So we have to have, we just put forth a ladder truck because we have to have a second ladder truck. Chem Lyons is gonna be down there with duct tape. We have hopes. This is to maintain the proposed stock that we need. And when these guys blow out a hose, they don't have to worry, it's gonna take 6 weeks. It
What
is to have
happens if you
stock.
blow out a hose?
We replace it with the stock that we
Is
have.
it dangerous to the person
Blow out a
holding the
hose?
hose?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. When you blow out a garden hose, can you water your
Well,
plants?
that's a kind of an example, maybe not, but okay, all right,
But at
so.
the same time, it's part of the reason for the reserves, right?
Yes.
I mean, if we got to that point, that's what reserves are for. So what's our restrictions on something like if we said, hey, we gotta have this money, this 4% increase is very, very important to us as a board. I'm asking this that whether Brian, yourself, whoever, is that something we could use this upcoming year?
To deplete it to zero?
Not to zero, but we're short ballpark figure, 330,000 or something. Can we take $330,000 out of reserves to keep our payroll at 4% increase?
If we're talking about the $1.8 million.
Yeah,
fund
they,
balance.
1.8, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Yes, Jim, I'm sorry.
It wouldn't need to be that number, because if we go to the 0.5, it would be 120 less than that, give or take 115. I don't know, Brian, we could get the calc, so,
Yeah.
so it would probably be 220, in that 230, whatever the number is. So if the 0.5, that's what you'd be dipping into,
Yeah.
1.8.
Yeah, I think we're all concerned about 2%. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I think that's, another way to solve it and give us that time, as you noted, the 6 months, we'll be loading up the budget about. Definitely by mid-year next year, we'll be well into the budget. We'll probably be February, March, where we're starting to talk about it, but it buys us a little bit of time to have that discussion. Chief, do you know offhand, I just I appreciate that, and I wanna make sure I understand it. On the hoses, what is our current budget for hoses? Just the number we were talking about was just the increase. So what's our annual replacement on hoses? My guess is you
So-
increase it because we're falling behind.
Well, what happened was 2 years ago, we went through a hose testing process and we blew out 20,000 feet of hose. Significant blew out, in the testing process. So he's trying to replenish his stock. And that's why his request was so high. Like I said, it was at 50. I brought it down to 25. Now we're bringing it down to 10.
Right, and I don't know if you have 100 or 200 already in the
It's-
budget or 5.
It's
in the budget,
rolled
right?
into the warehouse, which is all encompassing.
Okay, but we have other funds than that was just the.
I could pull up or down if I needed to. I appreciate your focus on the hose. I can work that, to make sure that these guys are not running with bad hose.
Okay.
Yes, Jim.
If I may, Chief, and I know this is a hard one, but it's just me trying to understand, because normally what you do, you put rovers on. I know you have them at the firefighter level, you put the rovers on to mitigate some of the overtime, right? I know it came up last meeting, there was a slide put up where overtime shot up one year, and I don't know where we're running today, and then you guys had on the side, on the right-hand side, all the things that you're doing to ensure that you minimize that additional, we have rovers on the shift, so I don't know how we work rovers, that's not up to me, that's up to all of you. Do you assign them to shifts that are short? How do you schedule to make sure that you have that coverage here? I'm guessing you had one per shift for the lieutenants and the others that you're looking to fill. Are you really one for one saving that overtime? Because normally when you say we have rovers, we're gonna save on overtime, but it is 100% of the overtime at the cost of the lieutenant. If that's the case, that's a different discussion on that slide, because either way, we're gonna pay that out. We're either gonna pay it out in overtime with your $100,000 request, originally the 200, and you cut it in addition to what we're already paying out in overtime. I don't know if that's a $500,000, because I don't have those numbers, so I don't know what those are. But that said, if you put the rovers on, do you then have savings? Now granted, that means you can only allow one over lieutenant to be off on any shift, but the over and under days would be something that I would enjoy seeing just for myself, to know how many days do we have rovers on shift that they're not utilized to cover a shift, and how many days do we have rovers on that they're covering a shift but actually needed more to cover a shift and we paid overtime. So it's the under over days, and that would give me a good idea, because historically, if I've gone down and had lieutenants and others, sometimes you need 2 rovers on certain shifts, 1 on other shifts, and do you move them around accordingly? We probably don't. We just have 1 on every shift. And if you have 2 lieutenants out, you're still paying overtime. So there's a fallacy in the mindset that if we put rovers on, we're gonna save in overtime. Many cases, overtime actually even goes up in some. Because you got training, you got all the other coverages that you now have additional staff that you have to cover for. And I wanna be careful in that, but I also wanna know what that real number is. If it's 198,000 a year for the lieutenant and it's costing us 150, the real cost to put that person on is 48. And it may give them some cushion and otherwise, then you got, of course, lieutenants currently earning a lot of overtime now, listen, they don't earn as much overtime, you're gonna have that morale impact, you're gonna have all the, I get all of that, and I'm just trying to figure out when we have them up there, because I don't wanna be saying no to something and it actually has greater value in the long run for multiple things. I don't need the answer today, but I think next year, between now and then, Chief, spend a little time with you just so I get comfortable with what we're doing and so I can understand and say, yeah, I totally agree and we're doing all that we can and I feel good about that.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that. There are a number of scenarios that you shared, and rest assured, we're coming from the bottom, so we're basically paying at the lowest level that we can to fill the seats. So we'll share that. The overtime, we have all of that spelled out. I'd love to go through that with you. Starting in 2022, which is budget, I didn't establish. I came in 2021 and established budget, but we have all the overtime that was paid out there. It is substantial. And a lot of it is people who left the organization backfilling those positions, but we have all those lists, and it will be a good discussion to share with you or the whole board of whomever. So
Thank you.
Yeah, just a little bit, sorry, I just want to sprinkle on that a little bit. We do move people when we can. We move people off of like a 40-hour position to help fill staff positions. We had someone that came back from a very much long-term leave that helped fill the seat, and then that opened it up for someone to move to another shift that has another long-term position, so we'll move on.
Yeah, and to that point, airport, we typically would have an engineer assigned to the airport. We do not have that. That person is on shift. So we have made a lot of modifications just to basically get by, and this was to give us some sort of predictability moving forward. But you're right. It's a longer discussion. Happy to share any information that is appropriate.
Thank you.
If I might, Chief, and I don't mean to get in the weeds on this, but did you in your plans, are you mothballing the squad?
In this plan?
Yes.
No, it would not if I was using the 360. Remember, I got 360,000 in there for overtime. So that basically would allow the squad to continue. And then we would have additional overtime to pay if we needed to.
Okay. One more add-on question. So you just mentioned the airport, and this came to me the other day when we were at the wonderful air show. Are we paid? I'm at arm's length distance. Are you paid? Are they paid by the airport when we are there on shift? Is that something that we get paid for?
No, the equipment and some of the training they pay for. This is part of what I've had a conversation with John Kenny, is as he's building out the airport, you heard him say, all these great things that they're hoping to do, and I so hope they happen. I've told John and the 3 of us went out there to make sure that we're on the radar screen.
Good.
We've got to impose a fee to basically offset our expenditures. It is not currently there.
Thanks, Chief.
Jim.
If I may add to that, Jason, I think we're heading in the right direction, Chief, on that as well. This year, one of the challenges with the air show, when they approach us, we're trying to charge close to full recovery for police and fire who work the overtime shifts. And when we did that, they hiccuped because it was a bigger number than they paid a few years ago. But we stuck pretty much to that. We worked with them. We tried to find a better spot. We also had that with a recent, parade and special events. We're trying to recover those costs, so we don't have those burdens when we have to bring in extra shifts to cover both in police and fire in particular. And so that's created some groundswell with some of these special events because the fees have gone up to recover that. But the reason being is so then don't burden the whole general public on that by trying to have to increase taxes to cover the additional costs. So we're in a better place than where we were. We're not 100% there yet, but we're moving in that direction.
So with that, we're not here to take a vote. We probably need to meet with the rural board, because this is really on your shoulders, as far as the decision. I can tell you, if you make a decision to go the other way, then I'll have to come back to you probably in a special meeting as the LFRA board and say, here's where we are.
Clarify exactly what you're saying here.
If the plan that was presented, and I know you didn't see all of it, but if that plan is something other than you choose, right? So we're saying, right now, your money is restricted for those 13 FTEs. I'm asking you, can I free up those savings and apply it to the overall budget to make us whole? Okay, that's taking it from restricted status to unrestricted status. If you were to choose and say, hey, we are not gonna do that, then I have to formulate another budget and present it to the LFRA board as to what it's gonna look like.
And I would guess, I'm assuming that the rural is gonna say, yeah, we understand that makes sense, but they haven't voted on it, obviously. But we're still short about 100,000.
Depends on what you're talking about. If you're talking about bringing them up to 4%, and I appreciate that, yes.
Going back to 2% in your original slide, that was about 100,000 shortage, or no?
No, I'm basically $1,400 covered at 2%.
Okay, so then our true shortage, you said 2.25 versus
Yeah, with
330.
the 0.5 additional on both sides, and you're about that 2.25 number. That we would be short to take it up, that you'd have to take out a fund balance with the district agreeing to the fact to use that reserve that's been accumulated over time for the purposes that the chief presented. That would then leave us with a hit of the one out of the 1.8 million on the fund balance. We'd have to hit that for about 2.25 to get the full 4% in place, and so that's what we would need to do, leaving us 1.6. And then, or 1.5275, and then, if you take 2.25 off, from 1.8. Then we would be able to sit down and then have that discussion of what we do in future years. And I, be quite frank, it's similar to what we've been doing at the city. We're not fully funding all our capital and doing some other stuff. We actually had a good number of layoffs, last year and some this year. And so we're trying to get to a good spot too, and we're starting to move, the needle. Every year we get a little bit more, and as things come online, we get a little bit more. And I think from Chief's fire, perspective, that's part of the discussion too. We're adding things, and I think Councilor Mel, or board member Alla, brought up a good point today. Johnstown is their projections are big numbers, and that's really going to grow. And I don't know what portion of that's going to be in the district area, but those are things that are going to change this equation. And you may have to have additional fire stations or coverage out of those stations to cover. And nowhere have we had those discussions yet either. So the sustainability, but back to the point, it's about 2.25, and I could be off.
I guess my big concern there, my question for yourself in the city is, assuming that the rural said, yeah, we'll come up with that other 2.25, 2.5, whatever comes out, $250,000. We're gonna have the same problem this time next year. Are you guys gonna be comfortable with that? Because it's a downstream effect that we're talking about, but at the same time, it is important to make it through the next year.
And let me answer from my position. Obviously, I still have a budget to take to my 8 bosses currently, and next year 9 bosses. I'm comfortable as long as, and I think we're all committed up here, and I mean, we're really gonna work hard together to find out what that sustainability model looks like, and really work with the chief and staff to find out what those needs that we're short on, right? And there's a lot of those, we know that, but how best do we fill that void, and then how do we go have discussions with our community as to what that looks like in the future. And so right now I think Chiefs put it best, it's a Band-Aid fix on the problem. We all know it's not ideal, but it'd get us there to take care of the firefighters and employees, because you don't want to short that, because they're the ones out doing the heavy lifting every day. And so I'm comfortable with that, and really thankful to the district for allowing the amounts that you put towards the 13 people to be used that haven't been used to be able to cover the shortfall for the year, so we can work on that. The one thing which I also appreciate, which I think is really important, I now don't have to go back and look at 15 employees or 13 FTEs, and I don't have to fund 80% of that in 2027. Because if we only have 8 in place, then I have to say, do we add 2 that year or 3 that year? And then pick up 80% of that, which is gonna be another thing above and beyond any normal increase we would have to give to cover salaries and everything else. Becomes a much more substantial number to us. You know, in the theory of things, so. Again, there's a lot more I could say on the, you know, all the numbers, but for now, I'm gonna just leave it at that and just say, yes, I'm okay from my position. But I really need to work diligently on finding something longer term than the Band-Aid. I don't like putting Band-Aids on things.
And assuming, not knowing what the board would decide here, I'm wondering how this board would feel about taking money out of reserves to get through the next year. It would mean taking $225,000 out of reserves. I mean, the reserves are there for a reason. Are we comfortable doing that if need be?
You looking at me or?
Yeah. Who's that would pick on John Bell?
We have that conversation almost every year at the city, whatever shortfall that we may have or anticipate. Mayors will ask about the reserves, especially if it has anything to do with people and salaries and that kind of thing. So can it be considered? Yeah, I'm not gonna promise it, but
Yeah.
It's one thing that can be considered, sure.
How do you feel about it?
I'd be supportive.
Paul?
Yes.
I think we wanna probably try and go for that 4% number and just figure out how we're gonna do it.
So we will prepare a presentation for the rural board, and then we'll come back following that meeting to the LFRA board and update you on the decision.
Maybe show us exactly how it impacts reserves and how it would impact the rural.
Yeah.
Both scenarios.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And one additional comment to two of my bosses in the room and to share openly is that the budget will bring to you be slightly different than what you've seen at our retreat. It'll be the 2.5 versus the 2. So that you're aware of that, and if we approve that and any changes occur here, we could have further changes to the budget, but just so you're aware, but I think we're in a good place. And that will be reflective in what we bring forward too.
I know the rural appreciates that 2.5. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome, but you have to pay, you're 2.5 too, so.
Ryan, do you have any thoughts in any of this or comments you'd like to add?
I just quickly want to say, you know, I got the chance to meet with Chief Semelbach a couple weeks ago. Andrea came over and I think, like he said at the beginning, a lot really shifted on the LFRA after, you know, that 3-year plan started. We had the impacts of 300, the city's change in approach to the budgeting. So I think he's got a really good plan. Obviously, like he was saying, this isn't the kind of thing you want to do every year. You can't do it every year. But I think it's a great response to keep compensation where it needs to be. But we do need to talk about what we're going to do going forward and how we're going to have a more sustainable, predictable funding model for the LFRA going forward, because can't do this every year.
I think I speak on behalf of both boards when I say that we don't want to see any layoffs, salary reductions, and it's important to all of us that you be treated fairly. They, you, yourselves, everybody, all employees, and that 4% is probably our goal, which is exactly what was asked for. Comments?
Couldn't agree more.
I'm good.
We'll prepare that presentation for the board. Thank you.
Thank you.
So today was the public hearing, but no decision. So I would make a motion to continue the board's decision to the October meeting, Chief?
Yes.
To the October meeting.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll do that. Second, please.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Chief. Okay, receive a presentation, consider approval of additional funding being requested by Love employees for a quarter full-time equivalent FTE IT analyst to support computer aided dispatch CAD services effective January 1, 2026.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, at the risk of complicating what we just did, I'm just gonna share with you. So, as you know, we are one stakeholder of a 4-stakeholder system with the Loveland Emergency Communications Center. What has transpired over the last year is Rachel Bondi filled a vacancy as the communications supervisor. So she's existing staff, phenomenal job. We're 100% supportive of Rachel and her promotion. And we know she's gonna do a great job in that role. When she moves up, that creates a vacancy below. That also takes skill set of CAD programming. So she was doing CAD programming for us and all the other contributing partners. When she gets promoted, her job title changes, as do her responsibility. I respect that. What has been asked of me literally last week was for $31,000 to basically hire somebody to fill Rachel's role as a CAD administrator. Now, I'm just gonna be very transparent. I voiced opposition to this. I don't agree with this. If you look at the agenda, I am not putting forth a recommendation for this. But this complicates Jim's world, complicates Brian's world, okay? Now, doesn't affect you because we would be contributing to Chief Duran hiring a position at a higher level, and all the contributing parties would be making up the gap. So he's got a full-time equivalent position. He's gonna add our money on top of that to fill this position. Well, that's commendable. The problem is it's September. And I can't come to you after we just had this long discussion and, oh yeah, by the way, thanks for all that, I need 31,000 more dollars. So that's the heartache that I have. Where I was told is we will not have CAD changes beginning January 1. Well, drawing a hard line in the sand based on a promotion, I have some problem with. Okay, and this is where, Jim, I think this is where you and I have to have a greater discussion. We are a shareholder or a stakeholder in Loveland Emergency Communications Center. I have no voice as a stakeholder. I disagree with that. The other thing is I saved $211,000 for Loveland Emergency Communications Center by reformatting the equation last year. And it was at our expense of $50,000. Thompson Valley put in additional $141,000 and Berthoud put in like $9 additional thousand. So we've all contributed more to make Loveland Emergency Communications Center whole. My problem is we can't operate this way. And this is a discussion for me and Chief Duran and the other two stakeholders at greater length. But I'm just forewarning you, the ask was for 31,000, and basically I'm being told we're not going to get CAD services changes to the CAD system beginning January 1. I'm going to speak very loudly. That's unacceptable. We cannot operate that way. There are critical CAD changes that are going to need to take place. So I'm not real sure how to address this. I'm just saying this is a additional conversation that we have to have between me and the police chief and the other stakeholders, but it's a problem. It's a huge problem, so.
I would love to hear from Jim
Oh,
first.
yeah, yeah. I don't blame you. I'd like to hear from Jim first.
He's got a big smile on his face.
No, it's another rabbit hole. I can start there. I would recommend we table this matter and come back next month and have a discussion. I know nothing about it, so I need to get my arms around it. Hey, Brian, I don't think I haven't heard anything, and so I really need to find out what's going on, have that discussion, and then obviously talk to the chief and find out both perspectives, also talk to Chief Duran and find out what's going on, and again, literally, it might be best just for us to table this and get all the facts and then hopefully walk forward. There may be reasons for it. It may be the expansion and having to program that into the CAD system. I don't know what those numbers are, the 61 additional miles or what have you. And so I don't know, Chief, and probably if we just come back and then allow me to unravel it and spend time with Brian and Chief and figure it out, I would appreciate that.
And all I'd ask is I let me be part of that discussion, so.
Oh, certainly, I wouldn't wanna come back without having that with you.
Well, can't we have the Larimer County Sheriff contribute to it?
He forgot his wallet. He left his wallet at home, John.
So I move to postpone this discussion to our October LFRA board.
Hold that thought. Paul had his hand up.
Okay.
No, I'm after what Jim said, there's a reason to discuss it, so I would second Jackie's.
All right, any further comments, hearing none, all in favor of that, Jackie's motion, say aye.
Aye.
Outstanding. Chief, your favorite part?
I am gonna buzz through this because I know we're very long, so. My fourth PowerPoint presentation. So just real quickly, Mr. Chairman, you opened up the meeting asking if we had any awards or recognitions. I apologize, we didn't do it at that point, but we knew we had the slide here. Captain Adam Backel was recognized by All-American Leadership. Very informal look here, but All-American Leadership is a contracted group that we use through the FRFC. They offer leadership training not only to the LFRA, but the other 10 contributing partners of the FRFC. Captain Backel went through the program, was recognized for his leadership. I would echo that, just an outstanding leader, not only within our organization, but within the community. They seen that, they identified that, and they asked him to basically participate in this expedition. So these are other leaders that from other agencies that went on this expedition, and Adam was kind of brought in as part of their staff. So pretty good recognition for him, albeit it looks very informal. It was at their dinner, if I'm not mistaken. So just wanted to recognize Adam and his contributions. Couple things, this happened 7 days after the inclusion election. This is at Saddle Knots, the end of Saddle Knots. We had a lightning strike deep into the woods. Lieutenant Dedecker and his crew navigated the woods to get to this. Basically spend the night on this lightning strike. There was fire that was still smoldering back there that they addressed. When they came back the next morning, this is the reception they had by the homeowner. This is the Tracy Powell's home, just incredibly supportive and so appreciative of LFRA's efforts as well as LCSO's efforts. They were there as well. You didn't think I was going to remember that, did you? Just a little bit of press honoring the 9/11 or recognizing 9/11. We were present there with our honor guard, as well as the good sheriff's wife was the keynote presenter, did a fantastic job recognizing first responders and those who perished on that day. The other two articles or two pieces are about our dive team. So we got some press coverage about what we do as far as dive rescue and our capabilities. Chief Ward was featured here. It was more so about the apparatus, but Chief Ward took the lead on this, getting some recognition for the 100-year anniversary of our antique apparatus. While it doesn't serve our community, it serves in a different capacity. The one on the right is us recognizing through the Fire Chief's Life Safety Community Awards. Two individuals were recognized for a cardiac arrest save. The doctor is on the left, and the daughter of the mother, who is in the middle, she went into cardiac arrest, and they intervened in it. Just outstanding. And the young man holding the challenge coin is the little brother. So she was tending to her little brother, helping the doc with CPR on her mother. So pretty devastating, but good outcome. Real quickly, radio lease program still in the works. So we're not in a rush for that, but we're working every channel that we can. I do want to reference the fact that this is in addition to that county or what the sheriff experiences as a reduction. This is a 27%, as it stands today, 27% additional decrease for a radio lease program. I think some of you heard about this. This is a pretty big deal. Now there's a scandal about it. We had somebody that was stealing ducks. LFRA had nothing to do with it. We were great contributors, and Lieutenant Brem and his crew did a fantastic job.
He's in that outfit.
Last couple items. The slash bin program, Lieutenant Dedecker is trying to get that kicked off. We've had an incredible response from the various areas in the rural for that. Basically, you drop a slash bin in a community, they get a weekend to do their own mitigation. That allows us to amplify our workforce. We come back on Monday, we pick it up, we chip it, we burn it, whatever be the case. But it's getting the community involved in their own mitigation work. more to follow on that. The inclusion request, we did an inclusion election, which brought in 61 additional square miles. This is in addition to that. Now, it's not in a remote location. In fact, the rural board, he was at that public hearing, Mr. Pinkert was. And his property, we took in one of his properties, we didn't take in the other at the request of Risk Canyon. I have met with Risk Canyon Fire Chief. He's fully supportive of the inclusion. It wouldn't be an exclusion from his district because he's not a district, but he's fully supportive of it. So we shouldn't have any pushback there. And I can tell you, Mr. Pinkert is over the moon about the possibility. Last item, meaningful sentence. This is just LFRA working hand in hand with municipal court. We had 17 violators of the fireworks ban in the city. We are going to give them a meaningful sentence. It's not going to be moving rocks from one side of the street to the other. It'll be burning flash down at the training center. So that's moving forward. Don't have it all finalized. Emily, I appreciate your work on that.
Yeah, I've been communicating with the city and the municipal judge to make sure that the appropriate waivers are in place, so we're hopeful that'll be in place tomorrow.
All right, Chief Ward, brother.
Copy that. Some training events, Windsor, Greeley, Front Range, and us out at Ames, and then us and Bertha training in the new burn building. Wellington Fire, they had been trying to use PFA's burn building for several years and seemed to always get pushed out just due to schedule. And so they had an opportunity to utilize ours, and for the next couple of years, they're going to utilize ours through an IGA and our rental agreement, so they get some live fire time in. Bunker Gear Regional Spec, those agencies, we've come together. We have a regional spec now of gear, and they're going to start on a research and development process to go through all the different materials and manufacturers and to select the bunker gear we want to pursue as a region. Red Cross Smoke Detector Rally up at Alpine Vista, which is off of 57th Street in North Loveland. The Red Cross and our crews installed 22 smoke alarms, and that's 26 people January 7th in those.
So from some before and after photos that I got from Lieutenant Director on his project up on Storm Mountain. So this is showing what that area kind of looked like before, and then the next picture is how they should say we cleaned it up. Yeah, they've been doing a lot of good work up on Storm right now.
And we have more to share with you. We're just trying to be brief. There's more to share on that for sure.
Bertha fire, the structure fire that we mentioned earlier, that the ladder was involved in the accident, and was on September 2nd. Next one is our triennial drill that was on September 5th. It's been a busy month. That was us doing our annual drill out at the airport that we're required to do. A dive call that was at Carter Lake. This was on the south end, so technically in Bertha's district, but we respond both to that lake for dive calls. And fortunately, we weren't able to save the gentleman, but they found him the next day. Small shed fire, 20 by 30 shed, that is, was on County Road 16 on the 14th. Then our air show, 19th to the 21st that we helped cover. And a small kitchen fire just the other day in District 6.
Club Light, where's that?
Like north of Station 6 or like the Valley Oak area.
Oh,
the
yeah,
new
okay.
Subdivision that's east of Floyd Academy there.
Okay. Last question. Yeah, Paul, go ahead. How's Shelby doing?
I guess, yeah, for what he experienced, he is doing very well.
Excellent. Maybe share that with the whole board. I'm not sure everybody knows what happened there.
I don't have the date off the top of my head.
September 11th.
Thank you. Oh, I should actually remember that. One of our lieutenants went into cardiac arrest.
So the most positive outcome that we could have asked for, the crew operated exceptionally well within 45 seconds of CPR, initiated a shock, and at this point we're hoping for a full recovery. All of us got to the hospital, and Shelby had a normal conversation saying, why am I getting all this attention? My chest hurts. So I don't think we can ask for anything more. We're extremely hopeful that it continues down this road, but we'll keep you informed from that perspective. But I can tell you a tough day for the LFRA. And I can't say enough about the crews and the entire staff, how they responded, just exceptionally well.
Excellent. Thank you. I shared this with our rural board a couple weeks ago. We had one of our Rotarians, turned out it was a seizure at the meeting. We didn't know what it was at the time, didn't know if it was a stroke or what it was, but I called 911 and from the dispatcher to the firefighters that showed up. It made me very, very proud of the city and organization both. It's important to mention that LFRA did beat the ambulance there. Sheriff, you were called. But they really put on quite a show. They did a great job, so thank you, Operations LFRA. Kudos again.
Cap, was that you? That was your crew, Station 3? Or which?
They came out, it was the Presbyterian Church on North Garfield.
I thought it was.
I think they came out of 2, but yeah. Whoever it was, they did a great job. Good public relations.
That was you.
Okay, any other business to report, Paul?
Yeah, I'm gonna be that guy. So I've got 2 things. First of all, I've been meaning to mention this. I had the opportunity to follow Chief Carmesino, said hi, and he said, "You ever seen the office?" No. So went in his office and I got to see the Hall of Disasters. I got to see January's whiteboard with more things to do than you can imagine. And I sat down and talked to Rob. I noticed on his windowsill, he had 2 awards from the Alexander Fire. There was an award from, trying to remember, it's been a while. There was an award from Lita to him, to Chief Carmesino, for all his hard work he did at the Alexander Fire, and very complimentary of him. And then there was an award from the Colorado State Congressman to all the first responders in general. Rob received it, but it was an award for everybody's actions on the Alexander Fire. So I wanted to bring that to the attention. I don't know if you have, Chief. I've been meaning to talk about it, but it's been since May, so that's my error. But that was a pretty amazing award to get. But the second thing is, so at the air show, I had to grab a baseball hat because it was out in the sun, and I happened to grab a baseball hat out of my closet and put it on, and it just happened to say Long Beach Fire Department. I have a nephew who's a captain there, and happened to run into Chief Ward in the lobby of the building, and he towers over me, so he looks down, he looks at my hat and kind of scours. I said, "You don't like my hat, Chief?" He said, "No." I said, "I've been waiting for a baseball hat from the city of Loveland for 2 million years." And he looked at me and said, budget cuts, which I laughed my butt off about. So today.
So,
Perfect, thank you.
Mr. Bukowski,
Yes,
just
sir.
in defense of the city, you're not a city department, you're the LFRA.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. But Chief Morris, thank you. I know the money came out of your pocket. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Is there anybody in the room that hasn't got their hat while we're at it?
I'm not selling mine.
Still one was.
Sheriff would like.
The sheriff doesn't have one.
See what you started, right?
Check the inventory.
Thank you.
All right, well, I want to thank the board, chief, staff, Andrea. We've all been here since 12:30 today, so thanks for hanging in there. Been a long day. Everything you do is appreciated. Firefighters, thanks for all you do, day in and day out. You're the best. We appreciate it. With that, we are adjourned.
Plan for the hours too.
I